Commercial breaks. All right, welcome back to the chat. So if you have been on Facebook the last couple of days, and this seems to kind of happen every once in a while, a lot of people start posting those long statuses about the privacy and you can't use my pictures and all this stuff. Well, it's meant to extend some sort of personal copyright to anything that the user posts on the social networking site. Well, does it? I'm not really sure. So joining us now to explain why not, our legal contributor, Heather Quick. Heather, thank God you're here.
Oh my gosh, make it stop, Heather.
Seriously.
Oh.
What does this mean? Where did it come from? Why are we posting it? Does it do any good?
Can I sue?
Yes, you can always sue.
That,
Yes,
I'm
the
suing.
answer is yes.
You're
You can
hired.
always sue.
The answer is
We may
yes.
not win, but we can sue.
Gosh, I'm
Come in for an appointment.
That's right. That's right. We'll sign you up. No, it means nothing. It's so crazy. Like, oh, I'm posting this stuff out into the world, into Facebook, but yet it's my own private stuff, so nobody can use it. It's just, that's why people get in so much trouble. They post all of this stuff,
Yep.
and it's out there in the world. You don't get to retain rights for other people not using it. It's not, you know what, saying, oh, I'm at the mall. That's like some special copyrighted phrase you wrote. Hey, I'm checking out at Publix. You know, that's what people write. And it's like,
so sad.
Well, you know, and I could see, like, I have a bunch of photographer friends, and they post some of their work on there. So I could see where they would want protection that couldn't be used, you know, for an ad. Somebody could post it, say, on their website and claim, you know, that they actually took that picture. I mean, is there
well, and
any
now
protection?
with photographers, they tend to do that with their work. And yes, that is a proprietary thing because of their, you know, that's their job. They're taking the photo. It's part of almost like that service, taking the photo and then using that photo would be using their property. But your own selfies and your statements that you make, there's nothing special or unique about that.
Come on now. We're all special. What do you mean?
What if you took a family Christmas card photo and then some company took it and used that on their website as an example? Because you know, you go to pick a Christmas card and then all of a sudden you see all these photo examples of Christmas cards. What,
Yes.
what about that? I took a picture of my family, but some company's using it to sell their product.
They would then have to pay you for that, for the using your likeness without your permission.
So I don't need to put that statement on there for them to have to pay me anyway.
That's correct, because
But I
that is...
thought Facebook owned anything that was on Facebook. I mean, that's the bottom line. I thought that was the deal, really.
It is their site. They're putting it on. You know, they can retain it even if you take off your account. If you sign off, they still own that content. And you agreed to it. Remember all your click in the box, terms and conditions? You remember that?
I agree.
Everybody agreed. That's right. You waived all your rights.
So they do own it, but they still can't use your pictures?
They can't reuse your stuff, like in their advertisements or anything like that, without your permission.
Okay. Well, let's talk about one of my favorite topics, because it's about gossip. I love it. Teresa Giudice, the Real Housewives chick, who is checked into prison yesterday, and it's a federal prison. It was the model for Orange is the New Black. She may end up at the same prison Martha Stewart served her time in. And so I was reading about this today, how like the food in the commissary isn't so bad. There's hummus and there's macaroons and there's salsa, and she could buy cosmetics and she could spend up to $300 a week, and she has an expense account that her family can put money into it. So I mean, it doesn't sound all that horrible.
Well, it's still prison, so I don't care how good the hummus is.
I think
that
I don't think
I'm
so.
sorry,
I think it's
I'm
a
not
break
going.
from her kids. I mean, if she have all this luxury, but you know what? She should not be able to buy anything, considering that she stole all that money. I mean,
No,
Well,
you can
now,
buy-
come
you
on,
can buy
guys.
stuff in prison.
I mean, it's not that many rights. You're in prison. You
But
don't
she gets
get
to buy
go
stuff.
shopping. Oh, what, at the commissary? I mean, how soon is that going to get old?
she gets to have.
I mean,
rolls.
how much can you spend in an 8x8 commissary for $300
You know
a
how
week?
much
Really?
clout you can get in prison for having a stack of Oreos?
Where are you going to store it in that cell? There's no
I
closet
know.
space,
There's
honey.
no refrigerator. I mean, really.
Now, Leanza, though, was telling us that she had a friend who went to federal prison for identity theft, and she said about being in a federal prison, it was a cakewalk.
But let's look and see what that was compared to, okay? I haven't
Rikers.
been in state prison, county prison, or federal prison, so I'm telling you, I wouldn't say it was a cakewalk. And I'm thinking you ladies would agree. But if you've ever been, I have walked through county jail. Not a nice place.
Not a nice place.
Not a nice place under any circumstances. And state prison isn't either. So compared, okay, because we have in federal prison many more white-collar crimes, not as many of the serious criminals that you're going to have in county, and you know, just you look at who's in county and state prison. So there's the offenses are different versus you have more, you know, white-collar criminals. So I think that's where there's a difference in that kind of thing. But to call it a cakewalk, I mean, it's all coming from your perspective. So it just depends where you've been living. and hanging out as to how great I think it would be.
So here is something that stuck out to me, and I'm going to need all of you ladies' help on. I read a story about a father who actually called the police over to his home because he wanted to spank his daughter for fighting with her brother. And he had the police officer making sure he wasn't breaking any laws. I get that part. Are there any statutes, had he not called the police and had he spanked his daughter, she called the cops, would they really have arrested him? Are there any statutes that would avoid that? I don't understand you're compromising with your kid, really? But that's the way I take it.
Well, and yes, there are statutes and there is child abuse. And so if you leave a mark and if you hit them too hard, yes, you are subject to.
Too hard according to who?
According to the state and according to the officer who shows up and looks at it. And, you know, everybody differs and everybody has different parenting styles, but I think if you're questioning whether it's legal or not, you maybe aren't doing the right thing. I mean, if you're seriously going to call the cops to your house and spend our taxpayer monies, maybe you should take a parenting
I'm surprised
class
they even showed
and,
up.
like, work on something other than that. But, you know, I was surprised too when we saw that comment that the officer made. Did you say, yeah, this wasn't the first time?
Well, this was, I mean, he said it's been maybe a dozen times that this has happened.
And not this particular person, but just in
not
general.
This person in general. But I mean, I guess I'm thinking that the parent is thinking this, okay, little one, if you're going to call me on this, let me have an officer come and I can prove to you that this is not illegal. And he's going to stand right here and watch me tap your little behind and move
Thank God
on.
I don't have kids.
So maybe that, you know, maybe that was his
she
motivation.
wasn't a little one. She was she's at the mouthy age. She's like, oh, that's right. You hit me. I'll call the cops. And he was like, I'll call them myself. I get that. I see where they were coming from.
Yeah.
All right. Any other topics we want to talk about? Yes, we do.
There was some information
we want to
about
talk about the same-sex marriage.
Yes.
Interesting. Now it's legal in Florida. You got county clerk saying, okay, I'll give you a license, but I'm not going to marry you now. And you got a lot of people pretty mad about that.
I find it interesting, you know, they're taking that stance. We're uncomfortable marrying you. And I believe here in Duval County, so we're not doing any marriages
they shut it down.
overall. I would be interested. I don't know how many on average they do, but I go to the courthouse a lot and generally see happy couples leaving, you know.
And there is a
getting
room
married.
reserved just for that, correct? I believe there's a room
there was
reserved
There was.
just for
The little
weddings.
chapel, right? Because I think for individuals who want to get married but don't have really the money or religious affiliation, you know, that is, you know, justice of the peace, you know, that's where they were allowed to go. And so now that will be gone for a lot of people, but that seems like a great business
Is it
opportunity.
legal for the clerk of courts to say, we have a moral issue with it, so even though it's legal, we're just not going to do it?
I think that there's no right that anyone has. Okay, you have a right to get married. Obviously, they've decided that, so we'll give you a license. But there's nowhere in the law that says, yes, the government has to be the one to marry you. So they can find a notary or a public, and you know.
What if you
there's
just
other
want to
areas.
use that space? What if you find a notary public and you're like, well, you have a chapel right there. Can't we use it? Can they do that?
I think they're going to run into some issues. They will, because it's a government facility. So if they don't want to rent it out or allow it to anybody, and then they're going to say, well, then who's going to man it and schedule all of that? So I see that there's a way out of it. It's just, it's so new. I really do think at this point, it's so new, it's going to get a lot of publicity with the same-sex marriages. People aren't sure what to do. They're like, wait, we had a constitutional amendment in Florida, and now it's overturned. And how are we going to handle this? And it has implications across the state in all the laws. I mean, you know, think about the divorce business. Now we've like opened a whole new population of people who will now get divorced, and how will those laws apply to them, and people dying. So there's a lot. There's going to be. It's going to take a while, I think, for the government to catch up. Really, in meeting the needs of, you know, these individuals, both in marrying them truthfully and in divorcing them, and in when somebody dies, you know, what rights are they going to have? Now they're a spouse.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's really a lot of stuff that is very complicated, and people just they didn't prepare for it. So they're going to now have to address it, and we'll probably see that in the legislative session. So
And you will be here to walk us through and explain the whole thing.
And we can always sue.
Always,
You know,
always,
always.
yes.
Always the option.
All right, thank you so much, Heather, for joining us. If you have any questions at home or need legal advice, of course, you can always check out the Quick Law Group website at quicklawgroup.com. All right, well, still to come on the chat, if you've been dealing with somewhat of a holiday hangover this week, you are not alone. We're going to have tips from the Director of the Department of Health for Duval County on how to avoid post-holiday stress and kind of the blues. Stay with us. We'll be right back.